Hello friends, welcome back to the Cigars channel. Today I'm joined by a special guest. I'm sure some of you may recognise this face. This is Callie Humphreys from TOR Imports. How you doing, Callie?
I'm good, you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
Good.
Okay, so who is Callie? What does she do within TOR Imports and what did TOR do?
Okay, so you may have recognised my face by now because I worked for Cigars 7 years ago now. And a lot of people ask me how I even got into the tobacco industry. And it was literally a fluke, but a good one, thankfully. I was made redundant from my job at the time, and I lived in a little village called Ormsby. And those that know Cigars Norfolk, there used to be a little shop in Rollesby, and I'd never ever heard of it ever. And I was applying for jobs, and an apprenticeship came up, and I didn't know if I was actually too old for an apprenticeship because I was 24, but I just sneaked in. It was like the last year you could do one. And it was just a business admin one, so it was nothing to do with tobacco, and it said Cigars Rollesby, and I was like, at this point, you know, when you're just applying for jobs because I just needed a job. And I went for my interview, and it happened to be someone I went to school with, so that was James, and he was the manager there, and yeah, I just had no idea that the whole world of cigars existed. It was bizarre. I knew about cigars, but I didn't really know where you bought them from. So this was like in the November of 2020, and I found Scott on LinkedIn. Sent him a message like, hi, my name's Callie, I love marketing, I used to work for Cigars, do you have any jobs at TOR? And I didn't really know what TOR done at the time. I'd heard of TOR through Cigars, but I didn't have anything to do with the buying and stuff. So he messaged back actually saying, there's no jobs at the minute, thanks for your message, but can you send me your CV? And it's just like one of them emails you get, isn't it? Like, yeah. Oh, okay. So I sent my CV, and I think it was a week later, he sent me a message on LinkedIn. So sorry I haven't replied to your email because I'd emailed in my CV. Do you want a Zoom chat? And I was like, okay, that's a Zoom call. So Scott then put me through, I think, 3 Zoom calls. I think he was just working me out, doing Scott things. And yeah, he then offered me my job now, which TOR didn't have this position before. So it was like a new role for me, a new role for TOR. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that all happened, really.
Wonderful.
So yeah, and so TOR, if you don't know, we are the UK leading importer and distributor for award-winning New World cigars, so brands such as Oliva, Hoya, Perdomo. I'm not going to go into every brand because I'm going to save that for future videos, but that's what we do at TOR.
Wonderful, thank you. So obviously this is the first of many videos we're going to make, hopefully. Yeah. So let's talk about the heritage behind Oliva. So what's the story behind that?
Those who have smoked Oliva will have heard of the word Melanio from their award-winning range that they have. And Melanio Oliva is actually the guy that started all of that, so that's his name, so that's where the name comes from. And he actually cultivated his first tobacco crop in 1886 in Cuba. And then there was a Cuban war, so he stopped growing tobacco and he actually fought in the war. And then once he'd finished fighting in the war, he did actually come back to growing the tobacco. And then in 1920, his son took over growing operations, and you know, they were running in Cuba and creating all these fantastic cigars. As Cuba's landscape changed, Melanio's grandson then took over and started selling and brokering tobacco instead of growing it. But in the early 60s, the pressure just took his toll, and he decided to try and find somewhere else to grow his own tobacco and create cigars. He looked everywhere to find somewhere to grow the tobacco that had that distinctive Cuban taste, and he went to Honduras, Panama, Mexico, even the Philippines, and then he found the perfect fertile growing conditions in Nicaragua. So today the family are the second largest tobacco growers in Nicaragua, and they still use all of the same techniques that they used to use in Cuba all of them years ago. So it's come through a long line, but they've settled now in Nicaragua.
Okay, so Oliva are one of the biggest New World brands in the world. Am I right in saying that the Melanio won Cigar of the Year in 2014?
Yeah, so it won Cigar of the Year, so it's the Figuarado that won Cigar of the Year in 2014, and it also won Best Cigar in the UK in 2021 at the Boysdale Cigar Awards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is really good if you ever get to go to it. Yeah, so when they won that award, when Oliva won that award, that changed everything for them. So initially it was a limited production cigar, so it's just like one of the other lines they had. And once they'd won that award, it just went absolutely crazy. So they had people ringing, you know, they wanted it, but like I said, it was a limited production. But what they're so good at, and anyone that's visited the Oliva factory will know, is that quality is, you know, key. They want everything to be the best quality they've got. So they actually held off trying to fulfill these orders, and the best part of the following year, they made more of the cigar, but they just didn't want to, you know, mass produce. I mean, they could have tried to shove them out the door as quick as they could, but they just didn't want to damage the quality, because obviously by this point it's got a massive reputation and, you know, it wasn't worth damaging. So yeah, it absolutely changed everything, and now obviously they've caught up and everyone's got stock, thankfully.
Yes.
and it's wonderful. But yeah, so for a little while there was a massive delay. The trade, you know, they were getting nagged, they were getting moaned at, but they finally did fulfill all the orders, and it's still known to be one of the best cigars in the world.
Yeah, I suppose that it's always quality over quantity.
Always.
That's the most important thing when
Yeah.
creating, when crafting something like this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the most wonderful part about it.
Yeah, so yeah, and like the guys from TOR and the TOR tourers, so there was people from different retailers, who went from Cigars now?
Ray, yes.
Ray, yeah, so they visited the Oliva factory, and they just said like the quality and everything they do in that factory. Scott said you could literally eat your dinner off the floor, like everything is just spot on. And yeah, so that comes through in their cigars. It's really exciting.
Wonderful. Okay, so to my understanding, there's a lot of brands within the portfolio.
Yeah, so there's the Serie V, then there's the Serie V Melanio, the Serie O, the Serie G, and then there's also Flor de Oliva. My personal favourite is still the Serie V Melanio, which
As
you're
I'm
smoking.
enjoying
Yeah,
today,
he's
yes.
just sat smoking one in front of me. Yeah, so what do you think of it so far?
I think it's incredible, and I've actually paired it with the cigar cognac, the Dominique London Liberation Privée. This is a wonderful mix. Obviously you've got the really rich earthy notes of the cigar, and they just blend perfectly well with the cigar cognac, and I think that the complexity is wonderful. It really blends, and obviously I'm only just coming towards the middle third now, but I really believe that the strength and the complexity is still going to pick up throughout. So
I just love what they look like as well. I just think
Yeah,
visually they're
just beautiful.
They're really
aren't they?
lovely, yeah.
You know, and the bands are just really, they stand out to me
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it's very nice, and it goes back to our quality. You know, it just looks quality as well
Exactly,
as
yeah.
tasting it.
Okay, so I believe that Oliva have a connection to J. Cortez.
Yeah, so Oliva and J. Cortez both fall under the VCF group, and that's run by Fred and his father. And J. Cortez is known for its machine-made cigars, and then when they ventured into Oliva, they obviously now have the handmade cigars. And interestingly, they actually also have a cookie factory in Belgium. And Fred, I'm still waiting for my cookies that you promised me ages ago. So yeah, they've got cigars and cookies, and I think that's a good combo.
Wonderful. I've never tried that combo, but I'm
Well, when I get the
definitely
cookies,
out
I'll
for
bring
it.
them in.
Definitely, 100%.
Fred.
Okay, so I read somewhere that Oliva have a commitment to social and environmental impact. This is amazing, and you don't see many other brands doing this. So why is this important to Oliva?
So at TOR, we only really work with companies that we know are involved with like sustainability projects, and Oliva fit the criteria like amazing with that. They heavily invest in schools, they plant trees, you know, their staff working conditions, like I've already mentioned, that is super clean and whatever. Where they work is just, you know, it's a nice place to work. They have buses bringing people in and out. They also provide jobs for people that would otherwise find it hard to find jobs, so people with disabilities. You know, they've just got such an impact on the whole area that they're in. Yeah, so they really look after the land that they work on. All the water they use is recycled, refreshed, reused, like a complete cycle. It's just extraordinary. And the guys on the TOR tour got to see all this last week, and they just couldn't believe some of the like tech that they're using. Obviously, they're still using a lot of the old techniques with the rolling and the actual making tobacco part, but to actually then get them out the door, they're using technology that is quite new in this industry, I think.
I feel like it kind of shows how much the innovation is important to their processes.
Yeah, so Scott was saying actually there's a place in cigar factories called the fermentation room, and where all the leaves sit and they ferment essentially, and it gets rid of the nicotine and the ammonia. And some of the factories, you know, years ago, not all factories, but you'd go in and the smell and obviously of the ammonia and stuff, it would just be quite hard to bear. But the TOR tourers went in the fermentation room at Oliva, and they were in there an hour and a half, and they just couldn't believe it. Like, the filtration system they've got is second to none. You know, there's none of that horrible, nasty smell. And in fermentation rooms, the old style of working out if things need to be, you know, they move the leaves so everything can ferment properly. But, you know, they used to stick their hand in, oh, it's getting a bit hot. You know, they don't want it to combust and things. But they've got this technology that they know inside of each pile what the temperature is, like in the core, so they know what needs moving without having to be like putting temperature probes in or the hand. Like, it's just second to none.
Wow.
So that was a massive part of their innovation. And as well, I don't know if you know, in every box of Melanio, just the Melanios for now, I don't know if they're going to roll it out to the other ones, but there's a QR code which you can scan with your phone, and it will tell you where the cigar was made, the roller's name, like who made it, and any information you need to know about the box of cigars you bought, which I just think is, like, that's something for me as a cigar smoker, that's fun and it's interesting and it's educational, and I think, you know, that's something that hasn't been done yet. I'm sure people will obviously catch on, but I just think it's a nice mix between heritage and obviously keeping up with technology.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a wonderful thing to add. And I saw the QR code earlier and it really intrigued me actually.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to scan that after and see.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So Callie, it's been really interesting hearing about the brand, the history behind Oliva. What can we see from Oliva in the future?
Okay, so what I can tell you is that there is a new Oliva cigar coming to the UK, but I can't tell you what it is just yet.
Always the case.
Always the case, yeah. So in May we have our annual AITS trade show, Ignite. We will be launching it there, and Brian Shapiro, who is the UK, well, he's the global brand ambassador for Oliva, is actually coming over to the UK, and he'll be visiting some retailers, so he'll probably visit you guys, and he'll be at the trade show, so we will see what he brings with him.
Wonderful, I look forward to it.
Yeah, I do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Callie. It's been really insightful, and I look forward to making more content with you in the future.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like down below. It really helps us out. And until next time, stay safe and happy herping. Peace.